panel. Mara Gillespie is the founder and principal of BlueStack Strategies and served as press advisor to former Speaker of the House John Boehner. And Mo Alethi is the executive director of the Georgetown Institute of Politics and Public Service. He has also served as communications director for the DNC and senior spokesman for Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign. Good to see you both. Mo, let me start with you. If you were a gambling man, if you were a betting man, who do you have your money on in terms of VP, who Harris may choose for her VP?
I got out of the prediction game after the 2016 election, so I don't know who she's going to pick. But for Democrats, the good news is she can't go wrong with any of these choices. Look, there are a couple of reasons why you pick a running mate. One, someone who can maybe help you geographically win the election. That doesn't typically play out. But could Josh Shapiro give her a couple of points in Pennsylvania? Could Tim Walz get her a couple of points in Minnesota and Kelly in Arizona? That's one thing, and all three of them could be helpful there. The other is to double down on a message, right? To double down that of sort of the overall theme of the campaign. And if she is leaning into a generational change argument, something fresh, something different argument, again, I think Shapiro, Kelly, Walz all can help with that. So I don't think Democrats are going to be disappointed with any of the choices.
Yeah, and Mara, what do you think? I mean, we just heard that sort of mashup of clips from both J.D. Vance and the former President Donald Trump saying they really don't care. Do you buy that? And who don't Republicans want to see on the ticket? What do you think?
They should care. And I think because the VP position and the selection hasn't been as heavily focused on in past elections as it is right now. And that's for a lot of reasons, and Mo just mentioned a few of them, why, what benefits there are just picking a certain VP candidate versus another. But I think for Republicans, it would be hard, especially for the Trump world, for any of these choices that appear to be more moderate. I would say a Mark Kelly is going to be tough for them because he would pull, I believe, a lot of moderate Republicans potentially over to that ticket. And I think that Trump has not thus far, nor Vance, has really made much of an effort to reach those moderate voters, especially in the Republican Party. Most recently posting on Truth Social to purge the party of those who don't support him. That's not the Big Tent party that I was subscribed to. That's not the Big Tent party that I belong to. And that's not how you bring voters over. If you're going to focus on policy issues, Republicans are far and away, in a good position there. But again, if Kamala Harris picks somebody like a Mark Kelly, like a Josh Shapiro, it could prove to be a real problem for the Trump campaign unless they change tactics between now and November.
Mo, what about the economy? Is that proving to be a continued problem for Harris? I mean, we obviously had the jobs report on Friday, which was weaker than expected. I mean, I'm sure you've seen everything that's happening in the markets right now. It is a total meltdown. Trump wasting no time to jump on this to attack the Biden-Harris administration on the economy. How do they handle this? What's the message moving forward? Because as you know, the last few years with inflation being what it was, the one bright spot that you would often hear from Democrats is, oh, but wait, the labor market. But now you're seeing slowing and weakening in the labor market. So what do they do about this?
Yeah, and look, this is why it's really important, and the vice president has started to do this in recent days, for them to be aggressive in drawing a contrast between what it is they want to do versus what it is Donald Trump wants to do. If you look at the Project 2025, that sort of is the blueprint of the Trump campaign. They're talking about tax cuts for the wealthy and raising taxes on the middle class. They're talking about all sorts of economic policies that would hurt everyday Americans. Contrast that with a record that shows jobs up, wages up, inflation starting to drop. And so they've got to make that contrast. But the key is not to paint a rosy picture, to say we have made progress, but not enough. And it's going to continue to be dicey. So where we go next is important. Here's what we're going to do. And here's how Trump is going to get back to helping his cronies and the wealthy as opposed to everyday Americans.
Mara, let me ask. A CNN poll of polls shows that the race is basically a dead heat at this point. any sense of who you think has the edge going into the last few months of the campaign? And depending on whether we see one debate, whether we see two more debates, I mean, what seems to be the catalyst moving forward now?
I think this has been Trump's to lose. And part of me feels as though he has been really rattled by those polls that show that the race is so close, that it is neck and neck. And his ability to just kind of revert back to his 2016 self, unfortunately, is coming to the forefront. We saw it over the weekend with his recent rally in Georgia. He just reverted back to, unfortunately, the 2016 version of Trump, where he was very much speaking to only MAGA world and not talking policy and not talking about ways that Republicans should be capitalizing. I mean, across the board, we know that polls show that Republicans are viewed to be better and stronger on the economy and on safety and security when it comes to the border. Those are two issues that Republicans should be, especially down ballot races, should be screaming from the rooftops about how important it is that they are back in positions to drive our economy in a better place than where the Harris-Biden administration has put it. I think that those are issues where they really can focus on, and they need to be. So right now, it's theirs to lose because of the person at the top of the ticket, unfortunately. I will say real quickly that the Project 25 did come from the Heritage Foundation. I know there's a lot of controversy about how much of the Trump world was part of that planning, and I don't disagree that they obviously will be pulling some things from there. But to blanket state and make it seem as though it was a Trump blueprint, it's not. But at the same time, his speech in Georgia didn't really prove to give confidence to people and Republicans like myself who are looking for the policy conversations and not the juvenile comments that he tends to make, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we'll leave it here. Certainly, I'm sure I'll see you both in the months to come. Thank you, Mara Gillespie and Mo Alathe. Thanks for your time today.